Attorney General Jeff Sessions said that there was no doubt Mexico would pay one way or another.
Well, we're going to get paid for one way or the other. I know there's $4 billion a year in excess payments, according to the Department of Treasury's own Inspector General several years ago, that are going to payments to people, tax credits that they shouldn't get. These are mostly Mexicans, and those kind of things add up. $4 billion a year for 10 years is $40 billion. There are a lot of ways we can find money to help pay for this.
For more on the upcoming fight to fund the border wall, we're joined tonight by Brian Keene, president of Smart Power, and also with us conservative commentator and author Dr. Gina Loudon. Great to have both of you with us tonight. Brian, I'll start with you. What did you think of the Attorney General's answer there about where the money is going to come from?
Well, I think they're kind of in a pickle here. You know, I mean, for so long during the campaign, Trump has said that it would be paid for by Mexico. And so they're trying to kind of get that point across. The reality is, even his own party doesn't really believe that's going to happen. So, you know, the tragedy, I guess, that Trump is faced with now is that he couldn't get a deal with his own party on health care. So they really don't believe that he's going to get Mexico to pay for the wall after the fact. And that's really just to believe, you know.
Dr. Loudon, what do you think of that?
Well, I happen to be one that believes it will be paid for. Certainly when you consider criminal costs of having illegals here in the country, you consider welfare costs. There are lots of costs to having people do illegal activity in this country. And so I would think that those costs alone, those savings, would more than probably pay for the wall. But if not that, I think there are a lot of other ways too. You look at American jobs that will be created and given now to legal immigrants and citizens. And those sorts of things will help to offset the costs that there would be to protect our borders.
Right. You know, that sounds...
But Gina, what about the enthusiasm of the Republican Party? Is it waning, so to speak, in the bush, and they're not coming out in support of this anymore? What about that?
You know, the establishment, Ed, has always been a curious thing to me, to be honest with you. But I look at the voters for President Trump. 98% of those who voted for Trump, that's an astronomical number. 98% of those people would vote for him again. And so that tells me that he is keeping his promises to his base as best he can, and that they understand the process well enough to know that there's going to be, you know, some fight put up by the establishment Republicans, and of course there's going to be big objections by the Democrats.
Well, Ed, this is...
Well, it's all about the money, and the president's going to be talking about money on Wednesday. He wants to cut the corporate tax rate to 15%. Brian, is that going to fly? Cutting taxes in Washington's pretty much an easy thing to do. Is he going to get Republican help there?
Well, I mean, cutting taxes always sounds great. And I got to tell you, like, let's just kind of pull this back a bit. The government is slated to shut down on Friday, and this is really kind of the clock that they're running against. And this isn't kind of just establishment Democrats or anything like that going against the president. This is actually his own party that is very concerned about deficit spending, and that when you actually say we're going to build this wall and we're then going to charge the Mexicans after we build it, you really kind of can't do that. They're not buying. That dog won't hunt. So you actually can't say, well, there's no money really being spent. You have to put it into a budget. And, you know, just before we came on air tonight, in fact, the Democrats and Republicans actually think they are close to a deal. That deal requires giving bad news to President Trump.
A lot of it has to do with the fact, Gina, that they don't want to lose Obamacare funding, and that's why the Democrats are coming to the table, and the president's known that all along. What do you think?
Well, I sort of find it entertaining sometimes when those who are never concerned about deficit spending are all of a sudden concerned about deficit spending when we're talking about protecting our national sovereignty like every other country in the world does, or when we're talking about cutting taxes. And so, you know, I think you have to take people at their history, and I think that there's some real room for some serious negotiation here, and I honestly believe that if anyone can do it, this businessman means business, and he will negotiate hard.
Well, I don't know if that, I don't know who that's...
Brian, aren't they going to have to make up the money somewhere? I mean, they're believing that if they cut the corporate tax rate, more money will come to the Treasury. Where are the Democrats screaming about that?
Well, because there's no need to scream right now. The screaming from the screaming on Capitol Hill is actually coming from the Republicans. That they're the ones actually saying, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. The numbers don't add up. And so what Trump is going to have to realize is that his own party, once again, is going to shoot this thing down. Just like they did with health care. His own party is saying to him, Mr. President, your numbers don't make sense. You're not running.
It's fascinating to me that the numbers all made sense to you when it was a stimulus in the first 100 days of Obama's presidency.
I'm only saying what your own party is saying. I'm only saying what your own party is saying, though. These are Republicans.
And then you're saying, well, you know, it's going to be the Republicans' fault if the government shuts down. But wasn't it the Republicans' fault when the government was going to shut down when it was Obama's presidency? So I think that we have to have some consistency here if we're going to take ourselves seriously,
but here,
right?
The consistency here is that the Republicans are in control of the House of Representatives, the United States Senate, and the White House. And so when the government shuts down, it's on your lap. That's it. I'm sorry that you don't like it, but that is what's changed. You're in charge. Thanks,
Brian Keane, Dr. Gina Loudon, always a pleasure.
So much.
Great to have both of you with us tonight. Thank you.
you.
Good discussion.